Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Rolling Credits. You already know what it is. It's Wednesday, and we're back at it again, baby. I'm Seth, of course, and I'm joined, as always, by Pat, Kirby, and Gums. Say hello, guys.
Hola.
There we go. So today we're talking about disaster movies, which honestly I know is a favorite of ours. And so basically we're going to be breaking it all down, whether it be our favorite films, what we want to see next, and how stoked we are for Moonfall, which is kind of where I wanted to start this podcast. So I know most of you guys have seen the Moonfall, trailer. How are you guys feeling about it? You guys excited? Let's start there. Let's go, Gums.
Yeah, so not really. I really wasn't excited by this as much as maybe others were. What I did like, though, is I like to see that there was sentient tech, because I just think that adds this weird element. And I was like, oh, cool, sentient tech. Haven't seen that before. So I kind of jabbed at it. But I think that the casting on there is going to be good, because I haven't seen some of these actors in a starring role before. And it's kind of refreshing to see this new stuff. But we haven't got one in a long time. So I'm not super hyped on it, but I think you guys are going to hype me up this podcast, and then I'm going to be stoked. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Bro, it's Roland Emmerich. How could you not be excited?
Yeah.
Pat, what do you got for us?
I think, Gums, I think you and me might actually be on that closer wavelength. I think this pod.
We need a coffee.
I think mainly, though, as a whole, this category doesn't, I wouldn't say excite me. And I know God. Kirby's about to punch his monitor right now.
Yeah, I just punched mine.
That, but is I do think watching the trailer, I was like, yeah, this is a movie I'll see. And I think it's I like the cast, and I think it's got a little bit of cool, funny, doesn't take itself too seriously kind of moments. I kind of can vibe with that, but I wouldn't say it's a movie that I'm man, day one, right at the box office, right as it opens, have to see it. It's just not something that I'm yeah, I'll see it, cool,
Kirby, it looks like you.
That I'm chomping at the bit.
It looks like you and me are just gonna host this podcast.
I know, really.
It's gonna be a 2v2 for sure.
You let us know when we can come back.
I'm gonna
just keep us posted.
We'll
I'll fly into California. Come see the movie with you.
There you go.
That's great.
Go ahead, Kirby.
I'm pretty excited about it. I am. It's no real secret. I'm a big disaster movie nerd. I love disaster movies. It's one of my favorite things. They're just, and we'll kind of break down why as this podcast goes on. But I mean, the Moonfall trailer that's out, it just kind of looks like it's going to have all of the elements of a disaster movie that I really love. It's got this far-fetched plot. There's lots of action, over the top scenes of destruction, and this it's a good dose of comedy that we're seeing already. So while I was watching this trailer, I saw some scenes that brought me back to the movie 2012, the car maneuvering through this terrain as it's crumbling around it, and Armageddon with asteroids, Day After Tomorrow with the oceans rising and submerging the city. So it just I don't know, it just looks like a great time as far as a disaster movie goes. So I'm pretty stoked for it.
Kirby, what is your guess as to what ad that'll be for that car that's moving through the debris?
Toyota.
What's the product placement we got?
Is it Toyota?
Toyota. I mean, come on, if they want to class it up, it's going to be a Lexus, or we'll see a Beamer in there. Yeah,
All
maybe
right.
get
Ford
a dark
Bronco.
horse. Is going to be a Kia or some shit. It's going to be freaking nowhere.
Yep.
They're going to throw it back and throw a Saturn in there or something.
There's a hamster cage in the back. We got the hamsters dancing. It's a Kia Soul.
There you go.
So I'm with freaking Kirby on this too. I'm stoked for this. I've always loved Roland Emmerich. He's done some great films, and it's the moon is coming to destroy Earth, which is something that scientists have talked about. All it takes is just to fall off the axis and just come straight towards us. And the fact that either the moon is an alien or the moon was a spaceship, I think that's kind of a cool concept, which I actually read earlier, which I think this will get you guys excited. So Roland got the idea basically because he was reading a book by these two British authors called Who Built the Moon? And they had this idea that the moon was actually constructed because why is it exactly 400 million times smaller than the sun? It perfectly blocks the sun. And so there's a theory that they think that somebody built the moon, which is kind of where he got the idea for this movie, which honestly is kind of fucking dope.
I can get behind that,
Yeah.
Why not?
right?
I mean, take off the tinfoil hats, guys. But like, it's a funny concept. Like,
And me and Pat just over here being realists, like
just like, what the fuck?
Guys, I need you to take away all realism at this point. This is disaster movies, okay?
I absolutely love conspiracies like that too. Not because I expect any sort of realism from them, but they're so ridiculous that they're entertaining. Like,
that's fair. There's a few that I find really entertaining too. Like pigeons aren't real has to be one of the funniest things I think I've ever heard come across the internet. Like,
oh yeah, that's so good.
Did you guys see, before we continue, that interview with the guy who was trying to say that like birds aren't real, and then he just like puked on air everywhere?
No, I don't think I saw this.
Dude, they were interviewing this guy about it, and he was like, yeah, like birds, like they're not real, like they've been replaced so long ago, like they're all fake and they're government weapons. And then like they start to talk to him, and then he just barfs his drink everywhere. Yeah,
don't do drugs, kids.
He said he was nervous, and I guess the group he was part of kicked him out. They were like, "Bro, you embarrassed us."
Oh God.
So I feel like me and Kirby might be the only ones who can answer this next question. But why are disaster movies always so successful? What is it about them that people really enjoy? And I want to start with Pat, because I want to get his take here actually first.
My take was actually going to be I disagree with the statement, to be perfectly frank with you. I don't know if disaster movies are necessarily always so successful. I mean, I'm looking at a few here, like San Andreas, 2012, The Happening. Like,
okay, The Happening's the only bad movie there.
The Happening,
some of the lowest box office revenue streams in existence.
I don't know if like I would necessarily call this category like, man, these guys are killing it, like just like racking in dollars. Like, I saw that. Yeah, I was gonna say this question. I was like, I don't know if that's the case, man. Like,
bro, have you seen 2012? That movie is freaking slaps.
That's a great movie.
It's a great
definitely a lot of cult classics, but
yeah,
I don't
that's
know
one of
about
those that's cult classics.
So there's a difference between being a success at the box office and being a success with the fans. So those movies are made for the people that like those movies.
Sure, yeah, I guess like to a certain degree, right?
Yeah,
like that's again, it's for that catered audience. And I get why people like within that category really like it. And like that's the vibe. But it's just like, I guess that's another one. It's like how you measure your success. But like that wasn't a movie that necessarily, even if like people who did like 2012, that's not a movie I would have said like, man, that movie just fucking killed it. Give me 3 sequels. Like,
I honestly feel like we offended Kirby, and I want to apologize because he came with that heat. But I definitely wouldn't be looking for 2013 or 2014 as a sequels to 2012.
Hey, first of all, I hate that you guys are just keep going to Kirby. Like, I'm more offended, I think, at this point. Like, I was so hyped for this episode, and now y'all are just shitting on it.
No, we're still hyped. We're just hyped in a negative way. It's great.
Yeah.
Hey, we need those opposing viewpoints.
We do.
Yeah.
There need to be opposing viewpoints.
I don't even go ahead, Kirby.
I'll jump in on mine because it kind of correlates, with what Pat was saying. Is there's this theme here. Pat also doesn't like horror movies. And I believe that disaster movies, people like them for a lot of the same reasons that they like horror movies. It kind of gets the adrenaline going, like the blood's pumping. You get to see some crazy action, and to watch the cast try to escape whatever disaster is coming their way. It's usually not a super like detailed plot, so it's just mindless fun. Sometimes for the whole family, sometimes not. It depends on who dies in the movie. But yeah, I think that's really why it falls within the same category.
So before you go, Gums,
go ahead. I kind of agree. I was gonna say I kind of agree with that. Like I feel like they fall in that like overlapping space, and I think that kind of can make sense why I just don't like the category as much, right? So I do kind of understand that argument as to why like maybe you don't like the disaster movie category.
Yeah.
So it's funny you bring that up, Kirby, because I literally had the exact same thought. Like it's literally what we said in the slasher episode that like. Yep. People love seeing the worst and feeling that rush, and it's like it's so unbelievable in some of these movies that like they get to experience these emotions in such a safe place. Like the reason people love disasters because they would love to see that happen, but like not really. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sick and twisted.
Yeah, so it gives people like that experience, but like in a safe space. So it's like it is pretty much what I said in the horror movie and what Kirby said. So now you can go, Gums. I had to just say same.
Well, if life is all about balance, this is like the devil to the angel. It's like the horror and the escapism within like disaster films. It's like the people want to watch them because the possibility and the actuality of it, the closer it can be to it actually being able to happen, the more people seem to enjoy that flick. And so it's kind of like this weird play on the dark fantasies within like the human core. So not to get too deep and all weird on you, but maybe think about it.
Get weird on us.
I think they really do. I mean, I think that's why people enjoy it. I think everybody's got like this dark side or like this other side they have to feed. And like this type of movie and horror, it feeds that for them. And the possibility that can actually happen, it does strike those endorphins and it does make them think. And some people egg it on. Like you always see those people on Reddit. They're like, I wish this meteor would hit us. I'm just like, maybe you, buddy, fuck off. I still want to live. And so,
shit to do.
Yeah.
It's like this weird type of like, I mean, I'm all for escapism, but like maybe you guys are just gluttons for escapism curbs and stuff. Maybe you guys like escapism in a different way. Like I want to get chased on the park by the girls when I'm 10 or chased by the slasher in a film, you know, like you guys are kind of,
I guess like, to that point, I'm sure Kirby will have an answer here, but I feel like movies have always been an escape for me. Like I love movies. Like a good movie will take you to like a different world and like leave you thinking. Like it's like reading a book sometimes, you know, like you create this like world in your imagination. Like some movies do that for me. I don't know if it's the same for Kirby, but I've always loved movies, and it's kind of like what makes me enjoy them is just like that escape. So don't worry, guys. I'm not a serial killer as Gum's making us out to be.
Jury's out. This guy.
Yeah, jury's still out on that one.
I'll agree with that though. Like movies are a great way, like a great form of escape. And like it's the same as you mentioned, reading a book or playing a video game. It gives you a break from reality and lets your mind just kind of, flow along with the progression of the movie or book or video game, whatever that medium may be. So yeah, I can get behind that.
And I think Gums, you kind of did bring up a good point too as to why people like that category. And similarly with horror, right? Is it does from a character perspective, that even whether or not it takes itself seriously or gets out of hand or not, you do kind of always force the audience to see characters in like that life or death scenario, right? Like where it kind of at least gives you a few characters where it's like, no, this is what people are really like at their worst. Like if the world was cracking open, there's always going to be like a shit ton of people that it's like every man for themselves, fucking jump off the ship. Not everyone's going to be the hero. Like, so it kind of does make people, I think you can kind of make people feel like better about almost sometimes like their internal headspace sometimes, like as a way of escapism, where you're able to kind of see like, no, it's not necessarily make you a bad person because when the tsunami's coming you ran away and didn't save your dog kind of thing. Like, it's like one of those kind of things that kind of helps with that mental headspace. It's like weirdly fucked up as that sounds. Like,
no, that sounds actually spot on. And like some people I think can even use that as like false fuel, meaning like, oh, I wouldn't run away. Like, motherfucker, you'd be the first one running away.
Come on, yeah, right?
Like make themselves feel good about it. Like, I would turn around and drop kick that motherfucker. No, you wouldn't.
Yeah,
you'd
I'm
be in the
out.
closet.
Like,
yeah, you'd be like, no way. Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah. Hey, everyone. Thank you for checking out this episode of the Rolling Credits podcast. If you're watching this video on YouTube, please drop us a like, hit that subscribe button. If you are listening to the audio-only version of this podcast, please consider giving us a 5-star rating. It really helps us out. Now, let's keep it rolling.
So,
great question.
I guess, moving on here for the next topic. You guys all win, right? I'm so used to getting roasted over here, me and Kirby, so I don't know what's real anymore.
Yeah, I think we finished that one at drop kick the dog. I think
we're good.
Yeah.
We drop kick the dog.
That's
first of all, I hope that person dies first in the movie because that's just rude.
Yep.
So, next topic here. If you're thrown into a disaster movie, who do you want to be the hero of the story? Who's getting you to safety? And we'll start with you, Kirby, because I don't need this negativity.
I mean, anybody that doesn't say The Rock is lying. Like,
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm lying.
The
I was
Rock,
going to say that. So.
that man can do no wrong. And I do believe that he would steer me to safety. or bench press me to safety, whatever works at the time. You never know. And, you know, if all else fails, like if we just can't get out of whatever situation, you know, we're in, you know, he's going to have some tequila nearby so he can just get trashed before the end of the world.
Bro,
So,
give me some of that Terramana.
Exactly, yeah. So
Take my
I mean,
clothing line and some tequila and
Some Zoe
to you.
energy.
Yeah,
So-
good debt to you.
so I'm jumping with the Rock, you know. I will follow that man.
That's nice.
Pat, what about you?
I mean, I'm in the same boat, right? I mean, like, it's got to be. Like, I think a lot of it too is more of the, like, in like crisis decisions or something like that. Like, I'm also kind of the person that is like, yo, which way do we go? Kind of thing. Like, trying to figure out, like I'll freeze up like a motherfucker. Like, if I got the Rock standing right there, like, and we're not all looking at him for answers, and anyone's looking at me, I don't know what the hell you think I'm doing. Like, this is the very large man clearly going to save us. Like.
Yeah.
I can divert. I can deflect. Like, I am obviously not the main character. Like, that's fine. Like, if the Rock can carry me to safety, I'm cool with that. Like,
Yeah, that's coming from the same guy who says he wouldn't choke out Michael Myers because he has a thick ass neck, and he just wouldn't be able to fucking choke him out.
Gums, what do you got for us? Is it the
guys
Rock
get too
too?
big of traps. Can't happen.
Is it a clean
I was-
sweep?
No, at first I was gonna actually say Morgan Freeman because
Okay.
I would like he's kind of be like my guy in the chair where he just be like, Mark, just do this. You know what I mean? He would just like tell me what to do or something.
Kind of
Like,
direct you.
Yeah, because it could be anything, right? And he like played God before, so you know you'd have a good shot. But then I was thinking, and like I actually went with a woman, and because if I'm gonna die, if I'm gonna eat the bucket, I'm going out with somebody I want to look at. And so I actually picked Gal Gadot, and I said,
you go.
yo,
There you
if I'm gonna get destroyed, let's say it's a disaster movie where I gotta sacrifice myself on the moon. Oh, please believe I'm gonna try to hit on Gal Gadot, and then somehow I'm gonna try to make her fall in love with me, and then somehow either it's gonna be on set or in real life, and I'm gonna just go for that. So that was my pick, was Gal, for those reasons, because I guess I'm just a hornball. But she seems like a very strong woman that could carry me to safety. So
That's fair.
We'll go with that.
Hey, Gums.
So you're not trying to be the main character. You're trying to be the love interest. I actually
Oh,
respect
there
the
you
fuck
go.
out of that.
Both. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever you want to be, as long as she's in there and we're running through this thing together.
I mean,
Yeah.
who's saying that's not the reason I picked the Rock?
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, we never specified what role we're at. Like,
First of all, Gums, I'm just gonna have to be Mr. Steal Your Girl over here because I got that Hebrew connection. Okay?
Hebrew
Hebrew
connection.
connection,
Yeah.
which I think is a little bit more important in the end of the world. I'm just kidding, but yeah,
sure, yeah,
Okay.
that's what they're saying in the Armageddon.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what's going down there.
She wants Moana to save her, so
Seth can speak
I'm
to
in
her on
there.
a biblical level.
exactly.
Oh, I will. I will. Yeah, I'll give you a camera wink.
So, I mean, obviously, mine's The Rock. You gotta. The Rock's the man, and I mean, the dude stopped a helicopter and a torpedo with his damn arm.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, nothing's gonna get past that guy. So, yeah, Dwayne, please save me.
Yes.
Nice.
So that topic went by fast. So we're gonna have to clip that and send it to The Rock because
There you
he
go.
always shouts out his fans, and clearly
Yeah,
there's
tag
three of
The
us.
Rock.
That's fair.
Yeah. We're
Hey,
gonna
I'm
send
a
it to him.
fan. I'm a fan. I just want Gal. I just want
It's
Gal.
too late, bro.
We're clipping around you. Yeah, you
Yeah.
didn't make the clip.
You didn't
fair,
make the
that's
clip.
fair.
You screwed yourself.
Yeah. Well,
It's okay.
I don't
we'll
know.
Tag,
I
we'll
was in
tag Gal. We'll tag Gal too.
there we go. There
Did
we
he
go.
though?
Yeah,
Did
he
I?
No.
Did I?
He's the only one being smart around here. We're just trying to
Right.
live.
Fair.
So
Nice, you
I
win.
wanted to bring this topic up because I thought it was kind of like very similar. So when I think of disaster movies, I always think of like a freak nature event like hurricane or like giant tsunami waves, things like that. But I feel like you could classify Godzilla, War of the Worlds, Cloverfield, like Contagion, movies like that in that same category because you have all this destruction and the meaning behind these creatures or events that it's like this fear of humanity essentially. So I want to see obviously if you guys agree and if do you have like a favorite movie that kind of falls under that category? And I'll start with you, Gums.
I would say Pacific Rim. That's probably my movie.
The first
There you go.
one. Yeah,
If I could fucking jump in there and drive a robot and fight some fucking kaijus that look like dinosaurs, like I'm in. And I do kind of agree with that statement that you said just about you can classify Godzilla, War of the Worlds, like Cloverfield and a lot of these as disaster movies. And so I agree there, because I really do believe that disaster is a subplot of action. And most of the time you'll also see it also contains military presence. So like, that's like a big red flag for me when I think disaster movie. Is the world alerted, or is a big sector alerted? Is there military? And if it kind of hits that, then it's like, man, it's a disaster flick. So I would say Pacific Rim. I do agree with your statements. Not just fear of humanity though, like also like just conquering humanity as well. Like,
yeah, there's a lot to unfold there. Kirby, what do you got for us?
When it comes to disaster movies, like I tend to lean more towards like the natural disaster. I don't really, before, you know, this segment came up, I never really thought of like, you know, the Godzillas, the Cloverfields, Pacific Rim as being like disaster movies. They're just like monster movies to me. They're action flicks, they're monster movies. But I mean, you know, they do kind of share a lot of like similar attributes. But yeah, before today, no, I never really thought of them as disaster movies. Like it was always, you know, something like, you know, tornadoes or earthquakes or volcanoes, or, you know, like the Earth being kicked out of orbit, like, and heading into the sun, like the day the Earth. That's actually
Godzilla.
No, that's actually a movie.
It is.
The day the Earth caught fire is from, I think, the 60s, and it's like after like nuclear testing knocks the Earth off of orbit, and it's just like flying into the sun.
Isn't that what Knowing's about too? The Nicolas Cage one?
I think that one is more. There's a magnetic storm that just knocks out the like the Earth's like protective atmosphere. Yeah. But yeah, it was always like humanity versus the elements is what I would think of for a disaster movie. But I mean, I could agree with that. Yeah, like Cloverfield, shit like that. That could fall under the same category. And Cloverfield will actually be my response to, like, you know, a favorite movie that would fall into that category, because I really liked the original, the first Cloverfield. I kind of, at that time, you know, the found footage stuff was big, and I feel like they did that movie pretty well. I never watched 10 Cloverfield Lane. I did watch the last one in the series that came out, and it was whatever. But the original Cloverfield, yeah, the original Cloverfield, I did enjoy.
What about you, Pat?
Yeah, no, I actually do completely agree. Kind of how these movies I'm with Gums on that one, and I'm actually with Kirby too. I really liked Cloverfield. Actually, even as somebody who's maybe not a fan of this category, that movie's probably my favorite that falls into it. You know, like, even though I think that first one, yeah, maybe almost made me want to throw up from the shaky camera and stuff like that. That was like really big at the time, and it was kind of a pretty cool way to shoot that movie. So I did really like that movie. I thought it was a really kind of cool concept. I didn't see the other two. I didn't really feel the need to. But I did really enjoy that movie, and I definitely think that they do. I enjoyed Pacific Rim. I get why you'd say that they're more like monster movies, but I think it's more like monster disaster. It's kind of like this is where it gets really kind of blurry, right? Because then it's like, where do you draw the line between like what like just like typical like supernatural like antagonists are versus like a natural disaster kind of. It is kind of a weird line to draw, because then it's like, how far do you kind of push that? In my opinion. Yeah, just don't draw it.
Yeah, well, it's all fiction, right? It's all fiction, right? So then you can say natural disaster or a monster disaster, but it would still be under the disaster umbrella.
Yeah, and I think that's where I fall on it personally too. Is just like, at least in my opinion, the monster movies, at least ones that are centered kind of around like the Godzillas and Cloverfields of the world, I think I would consider them disaster movies for sure.
So, and I think kind of like to your point there, like with the monsters and things like that, Pat, you know, you look at Godzilla, which was basically made after the nuclear bombings. Like, it's very clear what like the original like Toho Godzilla movies are about. So it's like, that is about like a disaster but they're like using a monster for that disaster, if that makes sense. So it's like, you do have movies that are about disasters, just like they're using a different like theme or like person or monster for that movie, if that makes sense. And like, I think for me personally, you know, with the monster movies, they're always destroying the shit out of town, cities, countries. It's like it's a different way of expressing disaster and it signifying that destruction. So I do like I could see where like Kirby, you brought up the like Cloverfield, where that's not as much of like that's more of a monster movie, but in a way like where he's destroying all of New York, that's kind of like a disaster,
Yeah, it toes that line.
Yeah, it toes the line very, very closely. So it's like I always, when I thought about this, topic and segment, I was like, if you really think about it, they can kind of be tied together. But for me, the movie that I, if it comes to like monsters and things like that, obviously I love Cloverfield, but Godzilla, because I grew up watching all the Toho films. Like I love Godzilla. Obviously, it's changed a lot over the years, and now it's just Godzilla beating the shit out of like some other creature.
It's always been.
It has always been like that. It has, but now it's just like it's more about that than like anything. Like But all in all,
I'd argue that in reverse, Seth. I think they put more humans. Yeah, I think they put way more humans in these new ones than in the old ones.
That is true.
I just remember ass whoopings in the old ones. I remember these fake tails being thrown around and like.
I mean, they had a guy in the suit.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this, think about this. Just as naturally to happen as a earthquake on the scale that shakes the whole world and we all fall into this hole. I mean, what's to say that a nuke couldn't blow up a small island near an iguana and create Godzilla?
Yeah.
That's fair.
I mean,
we don't know.
If you don't overthink it,
Is that considered, would that be considered a natural disaster? I don't know. Think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You destroyed the nature. The nature's mutated this lizard. The lizard's now a natural disaster.
Yep.
That's
also,
fair.
J.J. Abrams, if you're listening to this podcast for some reason, please give us a Cloverfield sequel because we clearly all want that.
We do. I
want some closure there.
Yeah.
In fact, I think the newer Godzilla's copied Cloverfield because they didn't show Godzilla in that first one until the end.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's kind of how Cloverfield was doing it too, where you've never really seen it.
That shit pissed me off, by the way.
Yeah.
That pissed me off. But like the last 5 minutes of that movie where Godzilla just like rips open the freaking monster's mouth and like breathes fucking straight fire and rips his head off. I won't complain. It's worth it.
Yeah.
That was just
Same thing with Cloverfield.
That atomic breath.
That wanting leaves you wanting more to the point where you're like, you didn't mind the other obscurities.
That kind of like, we had a topic about that in one of our previous episodes about like, building that momentum and then like leaving it on a cliffhanger. And some of those movies do that for a purpose because they know they're either going to get a sequel or it's like it makes the movie better because you're like, well, what the hell does this thing look like?
Yeah. The
So-
constant unknowing is always kind of it's like we kind of talked about in our TV show episode a little bit, just like where do you balance like really driving home this like big plot point or just leaving the suspense hanging until it's like a next movie or the last 10 minutes or like it's like a weird way to use that story plot device.
Bro, the perfect example is Jaws. Like they didn't show the shark until like middle of the movie.
Very true.
Yep. That's
If you're enjoying this podcast, make sure to check out my movie and TV show review page called According to Seth. So it's According to Seth, and I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube for some more amazing content and some fun clips. So make sure you stop by.
I feel like we held our own here, Pat. We didn't let them destroy
we
us.
still talked about what we had to talk about.
Well, before we get into this last topic, there is a question that we have not answered. And especially for your Pat and Gums here, like, is there a type of disaster movie that we haven't seen that you would like to see created that would catch your interest?
Yeah.
Shit.
What you got for us?
I'll tell you. Now, follow me here, right? I like to construct these stories.
Oh yeah.
Okay, follow me here. What I'd like to see is this. I would like to see that something happened to our ozone layer. A rocket went into the atmosphere. It ended up burning our entire atmosphere. All the humans fucking die. All of them. And then 10,000 years passes or something like that. You start to see the organisms and the animals start to come back to life from thousands of years later. And they're like these hybrid fucking human animal kleptopod type whatever things. And that's what the movie's about. It's about them surviving. and they're not human and they're not animal. It's just these things, and it's like, why are we watching these things, and why do we care? All the humans have died. I want to see that.
Fair.
Interesting. So you want to follow like basically like a redo of evolution kind of thing,
Yes.
almost
Yeah.
kind of
Yes.
thing, and like seeing like how that gets hooked in. That's a funky concept.
Yeah.
'Cause how do you write for that?
I
It's
mean,
Smelly as shit, baby.
that would
Whatever you
be
want.
a lot of fun to write for, because there are so
Yeah.
many avenues that you can go down, because
Yeah.
you know the human evolution was such a crazy sporadic thing that, you know, if one thing shifted like, you know, a millimeter to the left on like the DNA spectrum, like we'd be completely different. So
Yeah.
you never know if we had to redo what we'd end up like. So
What would happen?
yeah.
What would
And
we
that's
look
one
like? You
that
could just
would have
imagine.
like, yeah, and that's one that would have like a pretty crazy like well, like how we were kind of talking about cliffhangers and builds to major plot points,
Mhm.
like being able to see, like to Kirby's point, how does the DNA stretch out?
Yep.
Like, because
That would be really cool.
and you would have to wait the hour 45, 2 hours to be able to get to like what that is, even if you do get to it in this movie, theoretically speaking, and like how that struggle works.
Yeah.
It's a pretty interesting concept.
I like
Yeah.
it.
So many ways you could go with it. At the end, you could have like a human emerge from like the fucking earth and be like, you know, finally we're coming back to the top. You could actually have this be the plot of the start of the Lord of the Rings, where dwarves and elves are created. Like, you could just do whatever. And I think that concept works for me, and I would like to see that much more, because that would really be a fresh take on a disaster film, to where like you could just do whatever you wanted with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
scary.
think- Yeah, I think for me, a lot of it would. I don't know if I necessarily have a topic that's like burning in my head that like, man, I really want to see this done. I think for me in this category, there's so many that are like, you guys did this and you did this shitty. Like, please do it better.
Do it
Like,
again.
Yeah, like Kit Harington's that Pompeii movie.
Oh
Right,
yeah.
so, like,
Yeah.
Such
Never
a
watched
cool,
it.
such a cool story, and it was terrible.
That was a hot story, bro. A volcano killed everybody.
Yep.
Yeah,
Very
right.
hot.
Bumps. but like that's
you.
one that is like it is such a cool story. I think that it could be done very well. I think that's one that's like it'd be a cool way to like write better, and just kind of, if you get some behind it. I think it's hard for some of those concepts to get good budgets.
Mhm.
So I think that's one that I would really like to see. I'd really like to see a concept that is more like you know, that Will Smith and Jaden Smith movie that did it. That was like, it was like a
After
prehistoric
Earth.
After Earth, where I'm like, just do it better. Like, I
Yeah,
really,
that could have been good, man.
I
Yeah.
really just want that I want that concept to be good. So like that's another movie where I'm like, you know, like, let's pick it up. Like, that concept is really cool. And I think that could really work really well. That kind of semi dystopian disaster type flick, you know, that we can kind of work into, that, you know, with these two protagonists that are living well outside their means, without even in their reality, and understanding like how to like kind of rebuild a society almost, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that those are concepts that it's not necessarily something that hasn't been done. I just thought it was done poorly.
I agree.
Kirby, you want to take this one or come to me? I can't believe I had such a good thing for this topic too, and I completely forgot about this one.
No, I'll run with mine.
Yeah, go with yours first.
So for me, it would be a movie centered around a black hole just hurtling towards Earth.
That would
So
be cool.
like black holes are just like frightening to me. Like I've you know been a sci-fi nerd forever, and you know, stories and movies and games about, you know, just space exploration, and you know, I can't remember, I think it was Star Citizen or something like that, where I'm just like flying a spaceship out into the middle of nowhere, and I'm just thinking like, like the scariest thing that I could run into is just like a black hole. So like they're like impossible to spot, it consumes everything, and there's no real way to stop it. So like, what would we just as a species do if we found out there's like some mobile black hole just coming right at us? And like, would we try to find another planet to live on? Would we just like accept our fate? And like we see in the movie, just how society breaks down as like the Earth is literally just sucked into this black hole slowly over whatever period of time. But I think that would be That'd be a fun one to watch.
So
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to like rip off that for a second because like Interstellar is one of my favorite movies, and they obviously go into a black hole. Obviously, I doubt in real life that there's going to be a bookcase,
No.
you know, on the other side
Yeah,
of the
right.
black hole. But like, it is kind of like deep space is one of the only things that just really freaks me out. Like, I'm cool with going in the ocean, but like deep space, like there's like in Alien, they say, you know, nobody can hear your screams.
Yep.
Like, just there's nothing out there. It's just darkness and other planets and possibly aliens.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we don't really know what's on the other side of that black hole. Like, obviously, it most likely would kill us if we went through it. But like, what if there's that chance that there's just like a completely other world on the other side of that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I definitely have to agree on that one too, in the sense that like, kind of just bringing it kind of back for world. That's a topic. I would say the opposite to my point. I think the deep space concept and like all that kind of stuff is something that we've done fairly well in films, especially in that category. Like even in if you brought up Alien, the concept of like, you know, humans kind of go out of their way to search in deep space, fuck up, find some alien species, and it just ruins everything, right? Like that, the space exploration, the concept of the black hole and how ominous it is something that's typically been done very well. So like the idea of like being able to take something somewhat scientific, right, and like mold it with like a black hole concept curdling towards the earth is something that I think like you could do well. I think it'd be easy to make that look good,
Yeah.
like, and make that concept work.
Mhm.
We just need like the brightest minds from NASA to get together with like one of Hollywood's like biggest execs and just like flesh out a movie.
There you go.
I know they did a lot of stuff like that for movies like Interstellar.
Yeah.
Obviously it's not like, you know, picture perfect or whatever like that, but like
It's as close as
they
you'll
tried to use like some sort of scientific background to like create the imagery and like the cinematics for some of that movie.
Yeah.
And like that's something that you like in the modern age, in today's technology, you can do that kind of stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is a really cool concept, and I'm glad you brought that up because space is freaky, but I think it's really cool to explore. So for me, the one thing that I really want to see is, you know, so we had 2012, which kind of like touched on it briefly, and then you have Dante's Peak, which kind of touched on it as well. But I want to see what would actually happen if Yellowstone were to erupt, because there's a very high possibility in our lifetime it could happen. They don't know, like it could just erupt. I don't know if you guys ever saw Super Volcano. It was like a Discovery, like made for TV movie on Discovery Channel. And it kind of like goes through that, and it was just scary as fuck. But like, I want them to make like a full on like Hollywood movie about that. Cause like if that shit erupts, like half of the US would go into total darkness, probably most of the world. And like, how do you survive something like that? Because like you don't, you know?
Yeah.
So
because it fucks all the air quality out, right?
yeah,
It's all just,
and it blocks out the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we become mole people.
Yeah.
There you
Old
go.
people live underground.
So
And then
I also-
then the other movie starts where we don't know if the Earth's core is hollow. And then
Oh yeah.
Just write it out.
I guess, and I also had one other thing that I wanted to see, because for some reason they have not made a good movie about this. It's not really like, I guess we could chop it up to be a disaster movie, but I want one about Cthulhu. Like, just give me a freaking good movie about Cthulhu, just coming up from the oceans and just destroying everything.
There you go.
Like, Underwater dabbled with that movie,
Yep.
but like
Yep.
Kristen Stewart couldn't save that movie.
And then give me Godzilla versus Cthulhu.
Oh, yeah. There you
go. And just ride the rabbit hole and just get a bunch of cash grabs. Let it go.
I'm into that.
But yeah, I think that would be super cool because like I tried looking up like what would be a good Cthulhu movie, and it doesn't exist.
yeah, no, it just totally Fast and the Furious 5 through 9 us after a while.
Yeah, just let it go. Yeah,
And
let
just
it ride.
Let it ride. Cthulhu and the power of Sharknado. You know, like,
I mean,
Yeah, I'd see that. I'd for
Yeah.
sure see that.
Yeah.
Cthulhu would win that one. I'm definitely ready for Godzilla to bring the baby Godzilla. I forgot what they called them in the original movies because it's been so long. But they were talking about
Zuki.
that.
Godzuki.
Yeah. They're talking
Godzuki,
about that
boy.
for the next film.
Oh, I'd love that. Don't start with me, Seth. Don't
No,
say
they
it,
literally
so.
said that. Like, in King Kong was gonna have his baby too.
Oh, jeez.
Oh,
Like that was the thing they were talking about, and dabbling with. So
They're gonna
yeah.
go to school together. Their
Yeah.
dads hate each other, but they're gonna become best friends.
exactly.
is this Cobra Kai or is this Godzilla?
Kaiju Kai.
Oh man.
They're actually going to learn martial arts. So
it's like, man, they made a really weird sequel to Daddy's Home. Like,
factual.
So going back to the disaster movies here.
That's what we're talking about.
I think I missed that.
This is kind of like more for the natural disaster side, but like, what are, your top 5 favorite disaster movies? Like things like obviously like Armageddon, things like that, not Godzilla or Cloverfield. But we'll start with you, Gums, because I know you got some hot takes here.
So like, what are my top disaster movies?
Yeah, top 5. Give us 5.
I don't have 5.
You gotta have 5, dude. Come on, give us whatever you got then.
I already said my favorite disaster movie would be like Pacific Rim, but I'll give you a couple more. How about Independence Day?
There you go.
Jurassic Park, Transformers, Dante's Peak for those purists out there, aka Curbs.
Yep.
And then like 28 weeks later or 28 days later, those both were really good.
Yeah.
It's funny you bring up Jurassic Park because like I didn't really think about that, but they legit make dinosaurs in today's world.
Yeah,
bro. Yeah, I have a third eye, brother. I'll open everybody's mind here.
That honestly blew my mind because I love that fuck
disaster and the Jurassic Park and the dinosaurs break out. There's not a bigger disaster in the world than that, right there.
It's kind of
that's what the new movie's about. Like,
yeah,
the new one that's coming out this summer. It's like all of the dinosaurs are like taking over and going back on top of the food chain.
Yeah. So. Literally a pure disaster movie at that point.
Just saying.
Damn. Pat, what do you got for us? Blow our minds too.
So once you said that we were taking out some like it had to be the natural disaster one, I was like, "Ooh, okay, kind of out now."
We'll throw the monsters back in. It's okay.
For me, it is still, I think Cloverfield still kind of takes the cake for me. I really liked Pacific Rim. I did really like Day After Tomorrow and 28 Days Later. I did think those were good movies. This is kind of the 4 that I would kind of say like kind of easiest ones for me to kind of say I can kind of vibe with. As you get, I mean, I think that the Day After Tomorrow concept is kind of cool because it is kind of like that post-apocalyptic, like kind of it's ominous, it's a little bit kind of scary there. Same with 28 Days Later. And yeah, I think that those are going to be kind of the core that I really sit with if I'm going to watch in this category.
Kirby, what do you got for us then?
I'll take a couple of Pat slots. It's all right. I got enough.
Yeah, I got these. We got you guys. Don't worry, audience.
Yeah, I need you to stack my pat my stats a little bit.
Okay, so Volcano. Tommy Lee Jones is trying to stop, lava from just consuming
LA.
Downtown LA, which I mean, downtown LA deserves anyway, so he really shouldn't have tried that hard.
All that plastic would be melting way before that. All that plastic would be melting before that. Let me give the camera a wink.
I mean, I actually, Pat, I'm going to rewatch Volcano with what you just said in mind, that he is now actually the villain of the movie.
Tommy Lee Jones is the villain. Plot twist.
But this just turned into an M. Night Shyamalan movie. So Day After Tomorrow, of course, I love that movie. 2012, The Core. If you guys have not seen The Core,
I rewatched it.
It's
so
the
good.
Automatic snake machine they make, and it's
the drill that goes to the center of the earth. There's testing that stops the spinning of the core of the earth, and the world is starting to break down, and they have to drill to the center of the earth and set off timed explosions around the core to start the cycle again and keep the earth from deteriorating. It's amazing. San Andreas, because of The Rock, and because earthquake movies are just a lot of fun. Greenland.
Before you continue,
what?
It's because of Alexandra Daddario, bro. Let's be honest.
That's right. I'm just sticking to my man crush on The Rock. Okay.
The Rock is the hero. We all know he's the main character. He's the one carrying me out.
Gerard Butler really hit his stride. You got Greenland and Geostorm. Both really fun to watch. Not great movies, but fun to watch. Sorry, Gerard Butler. I love your movies, but so those would be mine. That's more like 7, but whatever.
It's okay. Well, I'm glad there's a few that you didn't hit on that I have here. So First of all, The Day After Tomorrow is like my number one. There's no contest. Like, I absolutely love that movie. I've watched it so many times, it never gets old. Like, the cast is amazing. You got tornadoes in LA. Like, what? So, and it's basically just like, it's hello global warming. Like, that's what that movie is.
Yeah.
So my second one, which I absolutely loved, and I think all of you guys should see this one. It's on Netflix, but it's called The Wave. So it's a Norwegian film. It is, there are subtitles, but like you have to sit through this one, trust me. So it is basically about this town that like lies on the water in Geringer. I think I'm saying that wrong. It's a Norwegian town. And this like happened before 80 years ago. Like it actually happened, but there's mountains that surround it. And basically like a landslide happens and it just causes this like giant ass tsunami that just wipes the entire town like from the face of this earth.
That actually sounds really good.
It's
was
a great
really,
movie.
really
it's
good.
a great movie.
But it happened 80 years ago, and like the movie is basically like, what if it happened today? So definitely recommend that to you guys, and obviously the audience if you haven't seen it. Armageddon, there's no need to explain that. That's just a great movie. 4 is Twister, which Gums I know can get behind because you know it's an absolute classic. And living in Nebraska, because I lived there for like 4 years, hearing tornado sirens and like after seeing that movie is just not fun. Like tornado sirens in the like, and you know, Gums being from the Midwest, like they're eerie as hell.
They're frightening.
And like, especially like being home alone after like school and just hearing that shit.
Yeah.
It's
first Wednesday of every month they go off as tests.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how fucking badass we are in the Midwest.
It's so scary.
So real quick, for my 14th birthday, I was in Iowa, moving from upstate New York to San Diego, and I'm outside playing, and I noticed that the sky is turning green. I'm like, that's kind of cool. I've never seen that before. And then a siren goes off. I have no idea what the fuck it is. And my aunt comes running out of the house, like, we got to get down to the basement, grabs me and my little brother. We're outside playing and like runs us into the house and all that stuff. It was a good time. I spent my 14th birthday in the basement because there was a tornado warning.
That siren, man, is so creepy. When I lived in Nebraska, I only experienced one tornado, and we were driving back from fishing, and like the clouds got like super dark. We're like, I think it's time to go. And as we were heading back, the like security like gate guy, because it was like a national park, was like, yeah, there's tornado warnings all around you. Like, it's a good thing you guys are leaving. And as we were driving out, we just see one in the distance just take apart a barn. Like, it was gnarly. Yeah. So yeah. That's number 4 for me because it just hits home.
Before school drills were a thing, we were doing school drills of learning how to tuck and hide from tornadoes. Yep. So come fuck with us in the Midwest. Ain't scared of that.
I remember that. They just send you to the bathroom, and I'm like, bro, if the tornado destroys the school, like this bathroom's not going to save us.
They sent us to the basement. They just said basically tuck and smell your butt and hope you don't fucking shit yourself and die.
Hope for the best.
I was like, all right, it makes sense.
Fair.
Yeah. And then the last one for me is, it was really hard because like I love San Andreas, Greenland. I definitely recommend the new Netflix film Don't Look Up because it's pretty great, and it is about like disasters. It's basically like a irony or satire on like global warming, but it's a fun movie, and the cast is great. So yeah, that's my list, guys. And anybody have anything else to add here?
Yeah, you sounded like Gums with that long ass list, bro.
The roles have been
listing
reversed.
off a million damn things. Yeah.
I had to. I'm passionate about this subject.
I'm glad I could teach you a thing or two, Seth.
Only Kirby knows about passion for this subject here.
Oh yes.
We're just gonna have to hang out and just do like a ultra marathon of like our favorite disaster movies one day.
Bro, I'm down.
I'll turn off anything Kirby puts on.
I'm gonna like have to like green screen like a video of me like being in here, but like I'm really playing Halo. That's like all.
That's what disaster movies are for, though. You can turn it on the background and pop your head in every now and then and just play Halo.
I'm just gonna go to Dave and Buster's and get one of them like little Latin blow up looking dolls and put them in there and say it's me.
Gums, is
like
that
Ferris
you?
Bueller.
Did you shave?
Ferris Bueller, the bed. Have the voice set up and everything.
There you go.
Is that you? I hit play and name off like 10 things when I'm supposed to name 3. That's him.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
Accurate. Okay.
Hey, Gums.
There was an
That
episode
tracks.
of Family Guy that I just watched actually where Peter does that, and Lois comes in and she's trying to get like Peter to get out of bed, and he's like, "I'm not fighting with you tonight, Lois," and she's like, "I'm not even saying anything," and she just lifts up the covers and it's just like a blow up
Basketball.
doll of Peter, and there's like a voice box. It's great. So,
Nice.
with all that being said, I hope you guys all enjoyed the podcast. I know Gums is going to take us away, so let's hear it, sir.
Whether it's today or tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, give us a like and subscribe. And if we get trapped in a freak show snowstorm while in a library, you guys, there's a whole section on tax law down here that we can burn. And let's keep it rolling.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Rolling Credits Podcast. Be sure to give us a listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, Google Play, or a full video recording on our YouTube page. And be sure to check us out on our social medias at Rolling Credits Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you, and we'll catch you on the next one.